August 24th, 79 AD. The morning begins like any other in Pompeii, a prosperous Roman city of about 20,000 people, nestled in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius. Merchants open their shops in the Forum. Bakers fire their ovens. Children play in the streets. The wealthy relax in their villas adorned with frescoes and mosaics. Gladiators train in the amphitheater. The city is alive, bustling, ordinary. No one realizes that in less than 24 hours, Pompeii will cease to exist. Mount Vesuvius, the mountain that has loomed peacefully over the Bay of Naples for centuries, is about to explode with a violence that will bury an entire civilization and preserve it for nearly 2,000 years. The warning signs had been there, though few understood them. 17 years earlier, in 62 AD, a massive earthquake had struck the region, damaging buildings throughout Pompeii and the surrounding towns. The city was still rebuilding. In the days leading up to the eruption, there were tremors. Wells and springs dried up. Animals behaved strangely. But earthquakes were not uncommon in this part of Italy, and Vesuvius had been dormant for so long that most Romans didn't even recognize it as a volcano. The poet Strabo had described the summit as covered in fertile soil and vineyards, with no indication of volcanic activity. The mountain was a source of life, not death. Or so they thought. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon on August 24th, Vesuvius exploded. The top of the mountain blew apart with a deafening roar. A column of ash, pumice, and rock shot 15 miles into the sky, forming a massive cloud that ancient witnesses compared to a pine tree, a trunk of ejected material rising vertically before spreading out in a canopy of destruction. The eruption was a Plinian eruption, named after Pliny the Younger, who witnessed the disaster from across the bay and later wrote the only surviving eyewitness account. He described the cloud as sometimes white, sometimes dark and spotted, depending on whether it carried ash or earth. The column was so immense it could be seen from miles away, and it blocked out the sun, plunging the region into darkness. At first, Pompeii was not destroyed by lava. Lava moves slowly, and people can usually escape it. What rained down on Pompeii was far more insidious. Pumice stones, light porous rocks ejected from the volcano. They fell like lethal hail, accumulating rapidly in the streets and on rooftops. The stones were small at first, but as the hours passed, they grew larger and fell faster. Roofs began to collapse under the weight. The air filled with ash and toxic gases. Visibility dropped to nearly zero. Some people fled immediately, running toward the city gates or the harbor, hoping to escape by sea. Others took shelter in their homes, in cellars, under stairways, believing the eruption would pass. It was a fatal miscalculation. As night fell, the situation grew catastrophic. The eruption intensified. The column of material rising from Vesuvius became unstable and began to collapse. When a volcanic column collapses, it creates what's known as a pyroclastic surge, a ground-hugging avalanche of superheated gas, ash, and rock that moves at incredible speed. The first surge hit Pompeii around midnight. It was not as deadly as what was to come, but it was a preview of the horror. The surges moved like liquid, flowing through streets, filling rooms, and suffocating anyone caught in their path. The temperature was extreme, hot enough to kill instantly, but not hot enough to incinerate bodies completely. By the early hours of August 25th, Pompeii had been buried under several meters of pumice and ash. But the eruption was not finished. Around 7:30 in the morning, a massive pyroclastic surge, far more powerful than the earlier ones, swept down the mountain and engulfed what remained of the city. This surge moved at speeds estimated at over 100 kilometers per hour, with temperatures exceeding 300 degrees Celsius. Anyone still alive in Pompeii died instantly. Their bodies were not burned away. Instead, they were encased in ash and pumice, which hardened around them, preserving the exact position they were in at the moment of death. A man crouched against a wall, trying to shield himself. A dog chained to a post, struggling futilely to escape. Families huddled together, a pregnant woman, a child clutching a parent. The ash captured everything: posture, expression, clothing, even the terror frozen on their faces. And then, silence. Pompeii was gone, buried under 6 meters of volcanic material. The city that had thrived for centuries vanished in less than a day. Nearby Herculaneum, a smaller and wealthier town closer to Vesuvius, suffered a similar fate, though it was buried under a different type of material, a dense pyroclastic flow that hardened into rock, preserving buildings and organic materials even better than in Pompeii. In total, the eruption killed an estimated 16,000 people across the region. Survivors who had fled described the scene as apocalyptic, the sea retreating, the sky filled with fire, entire towns erased. The eruption finally subsided after 2 days, leaving behind a transformed landscape. Vesuvius itself had changed shape. Its summit collapsed. And beneath the ash and stone lay Pompeii, entombed and forgotten. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii remained buried. The location of the city was lost. Vegetation grew over the site. The memory of what had happened faded into myth. Occasionally, farmers digging wells or plowing fields would unearth pieces of marble or stone, but no one realized they were uncovering the remains of a Roman city. It wasn't until 1748 that systematic excavation began, initiated by the Spanish engineer Roque Joaquín de Alcubierre under the orders of King Charles III of Spain, who ruled Naples at the time. What they found astonished them. Pompeii was not just ruins. It was a city frozen in time. The volcanic material had acted as a perfect preservative. Buildings stood largely intact. Frescoes adorned the walls, their colors still vibrant after nearly 2 millennia. Mosaics covered floors. Graffiti was still legible on the walls, jokes, election slogans, declarations of love, insults, appointments. In the bakery, loaves of bread sat carbonized but recognizable in the ovens. In the taverns, amphorae of wine stood on counters. The forum, the temples, the brothels, the baths, all were preserved. It was as if the city had been abandoned moments before, not centuries ago. But the most haunting discoveries were the bodies. As excavators dug through the hardened ash, they found voids, hollow spaces in the shape of human beings. The bodies themselves had decomposed over the centuries, but the ash that encased them had hardened into a perfect mold. In the mid-19th century, the Italian archaeologist Giuseppe Fiorelli developed a technique to fill these voids with plaster, creating casts of the victims in their final moments. The results were heartbreaking and deeply human. The casts showed people in agony, trying to protect themselves or their loved ones. They revealed the small details: a man still wearing his sandals, a woman clutching her jewelry, a child curled in a fetal position. These were not abstract ancient Romans. They were real people, caught in an unimaginable catastrophe, and now their final moments were preserved for the world to see. The excavation of Pompeii revolutionized archaeology and our understanding of Roman life. Before Pompeii, much of what was known about ancient Rome came from the writings of the elite politicians, philosophers, historians, but Pompeii offered something different, a snapshot of daily life. It showed how ordinary people lived, worked, ate, and entertained themselves. The city revealed the layout of Roman homes, with their atriums and peristyles. It showed the importance of public spaces like the forum and the baths. It documented the role of slavery, with quarters for enslaved people found in many houses. It displayed the vibrancy of Roman commerce, with shops selling everything from fish sauce to jewelry. It even preserved the sexual frankness of Roman culture, with explicit frescoes and objects that shocked early excavators but provided invaluable insight into Roman attitudes. Pompeii also told stories of resilience and tragedy. In one villa, archaeologists found the remains of a family that had tried to flee but turned back, perhaps to retrieve valuables or rescue someone left behind. They died together in a small room. In another location, the skeleton of a man was found clutching a bag of coins wealth that became worthless in his final moments. Near the harbor, the remains of 200 people were discovered, likely waiting for boats that never came. And in the gladiator barracks, the bodies of gladiators were found still in chains, unable to escape even as the city collapsed around them. Today, Pompeii is one of the most visited archaeological sites in the world. Millions of tourists walk its ancient streets each year, marveling at the preservation and the eerie sense of connection to the past. But Pompeii is also a site under threat. Exposure to the elements, tourism, and inadequate funding for conservation have caused significant damage over the years. Walls have collapsed. Frescoes have faded. The Italian government and international organizations have worked to stabilize and preserve the site, but it remains a constant challenge. Pompeii is not a museum. It is an open-air city, subject to rain, wind, earthquakes, and the passage of time. And Vesuvius is still active. The volcano has erupted dozens of times since 79 AD, most recently in 1944. Today, more than 3 million people live in the shadow of Vesuvius, in Naples and the surrounding towns. It is one of the most densely populated volcanic regions in the world. Scientists monitor the mountain constantly, measuring seismic activity and gas emissions, watching for signs of an impending eruption. Emergency plans exist to evacuate the area, but the logistics of moving millions of people quickly are staggering. Vesuvius will erupt again. It is not a question of if, but when. And when it does, the world will be watching, hoping that modern technology and preparation can prevent the tragedy that befell Pompeii from repeating. Pompeii is more than an archaeological site. It is a reminder of the power of nature and the fragility of human civilization. It shows us that no matter how advanced or prosperous a society becomes, it can be erased in a single day by forces beyond its control. But Pompeii is also a testament to the resilience of human memory. The city was buried, forgotten, and lost, yet it was rediscovered, excavated, and preserved. The people of Pompeii, who died in terror and agony, have been given a kind of immortality. Their city, frozen in time, allows us to walk their streets, see their art, read their words, and understand their lives in a way that would be impossible for almost any other ancient civilization. The story of Pompeii is not just about destruction. It is about preservation. It is about the strange and terrible way that catastrophe can also be a gift to history. The eruption of Vesuvius destroyed Pompeii, but it also saved it. And in doing so, it gave us a window into the past more vivid and more intimate than almost anything else that survives from the ancient world. Pompeii is a city frozen in time, and that frozen moment has lasted nearly 2,000 years.